The tense charter negotiations have escalated big time. NASCAR told the teams, sign this or else, and some teams looked them in the eye and said, make me. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Apologies for the theatrics, but I figured the news from this past weekend called for it. 13 of the 15 teams that own NASCAR Cup Series charters reportedly signed a new charter agreement late Friday night. The mood on Saturday, however, was not celebratory. Instead, it was quite tense, reporter Jenna Fryer of the AP posted. Sources tell me any teams who have signed were coerced and threatened to do so. 2 teams did not sign the agreement. 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports. 2311, the team co-owned by Michael Jordan and driver Denny Hamlin, released this statement. 2311 decided to not meet a NASCAR-imposed deadline last night to sign charter agreements for its 2 cars for 2025 through 2031. 2311's position, as stated in a letter to NASCAR, is that we did not have an opportunity to fairly bargain for a new charter contract. We notified NASCAR what issues needed to be addressed in writing at the deadline. We are interested in engaging in constructive discussions with NASCAR to address these issues and move forward in a way that comes to a fair resolution while strengthening the sport we all love. At 2311 Racing, we remain committed to competing at the highest level while also standing firm in our belief that NASCAR should be governed by fair and equitable practices. So 2311 Racing is holding out for the time being. That is not surprising. What is a little surprising is the news that Front Row Motorsports didn't sign the agreement. Front Row Motorsports reportedly bought one of the Stewart-Haas charters early this summer. I think many took that as a signal that they were confident in the charter system and where negotiations were headed. So them holding out did come as a bit of a surprise, at least to me. Now, Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic published an article this weekend. I'll link it down below. It included this comment from Front Row Motorsports owner Bob Jenkins, offering some explanation. He said, quote, "It was just tough to get a 105-page contract at 6 o'clock on Friday night and then be asked to sign it by midnight. We just didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. I don't have anything against the guys who did sign it. I know a lot of people were uncomfortable, but felt like they had to." Lot of interesting quotes circulating this week. The Athletic had another quote from an anonymous team owner who said they felt like they had a gun to their head. Very graphic. Curtis Pulk, part of 2311 Racing, spoke to reporters this weekend and echoed Bob Jenkins' concerns. Pulk said, quote, "We believe that all teams, including those who signed, may not have been given a true opportunity to negotiate or fully understand the implications of the contract terms." Yeah, so tying that back to Bob Jenkins' comments, I doubt everything in that 105-page document was brand new, but it's still pretty slimy to demand someone sign something without giving them time to review it. That's the kind of scummy thing you'd expect to see like in national politics. Clearly, there is still a lot of tension. Look, both NASCAR and the teams need each other to continue to operate the way they do now. But most in the industry, I believe, would agree that NASCAR has had more leverage than the teams throughout most of this process. The teams have never been fully unified. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, different budgets. They don't necessarily want the same thing. NASCAR, meanwhile, is unified, and they can point to all of the tracks that they own, their brand, the Daytona 500 brand, the massive TV deal they negotiated, the fact that charters have gone up in value as benefits they bring to the table. So in recent weeks, I think we've seen NASCAR begin to throw their weight around a little. They added a non-disparagement clause to a recent proposal, allegedly. They're giving the teams arbitrary deadlines, threatening to revoke their charters if they don't agree. Curtis Pulk, again of 2311 Racing, was very critical of NASCAR's strong-arm negotiating tactics, saying this weekend, quote, "NASCAR has superior bargaining power and undue influence over the sport and the charter process. They wielded this power continuously over the past few months and consistently rejected broad team requests on major issues while providing minor changes for pet issues that some teams requested in one-on-one meetings." Now, Denny Hamlin, 2311 co-owner, would disagree with the opinion that NASCAR holds more leverage over the teams. He delivered some scathing remarks last week. This was before NASCAR gave that ultimatum, but Denny Hamlin said this, quote, Hendrick and Gibbs putting superstars on the racetrack, that is what has built the sport. Fans do not come to see cars going around in circles. If they would, then we would sell out ARCA races, but they don't. They sell out on Sunday to watch Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch. So who provides them the cars? That's the teams. Who spends the money? That's the teams. Whose sponsors go buy a suite? That's the teams. Whose sponsors activate in their midways? That's the teams. That's the tough part. They just don't value us. Very strong words from Denny Hamlin. Again, this was before the weekend. During the weekend, Hamlin mostly just referred to 2311's statement, the one I read at the beginning of this video. So what happens next? NASCAR has threatened to revoke 2311 and Front Row Motorsports' charters. Are they screwed? Is NASCAR about to drop the hammer? Will these two teams be able to keep racing without charters? Will Front Row and 2311 strike a deal with NASCAR? Time is ticking, but 2025 is still several months away. Any deadline before then is arbitrary. Many are speculating that lawyers will get involved. 2311 seems to believe NASCAR holds too much power. They are wielding it unfairly. This quote I read earlier from Curtis Pulk stands out. NASCAR has superior bargaining power and undue influence over the sport and the charter process. Again, back to what I said earlier, NASCAR owns the series. They own the large NASCAR brand, the Daytona 500. They own tracks like Daytona, Talladega, Darlington, Martinsville, Richmond, Phoenix. I could go on. They own IMSA. They own a lot. They have a lot of control, and it's not exactly a democracy. It's the France family. I am obviously no legal expert. I'm not even a legal novice. Shoot, I'm not even a beginner, but maybe 2311 and Front Row have some sort of grounds. Perhaps they could challenge that NASCAR is acting as a monopoly. I have no idea if that's valid, but nobody really seems to know exactly where this is going to go. Taking things to court would obviously be expensive, likely time-consuming, extremely contentious. Fox reporter Bob Pockris posted this the other day. My guess is they, the teams, feel they have good legal standing that any revoking of their charters wouldn't stand up in court, or at the least wouldn't be worth it to NASCAR to try to prevail in open court. Curtis Pulk, again, 2311 partner, had this to say, I'm not going to speculate as to what we're going to do. We're going to protect our rights, and whatever we have to do to protect our rights is what we'll do. So nobody seems to know exactly what is going to happen next. For what it's worth, obviously not all teams agree with 2311 and Front Row's stance. 13 of the 15 teams signed the agreement. Maybe some were happier with it than others, but a signature is a signature. Brad Keselowski, co-owner of RFK Racing, who signed the deal, said there were parts of the deal he liked, others he didn't, but he pushed back against reports that NASCAR gave some sort of threatening ultimatum. Keselowski said, quote, "For us, we felt like it was right to do a deal and move forward. Forced is a really strong term." The Athletic, again referring to that article, quoted a longtime team executive who seemed to completely disagree with 2311 Racing's assessment of the France family. This quote read, "This is another step, a good step toward getting what we want. Of course, we'd like a better deal. It's not perfect, but NASCAR's focus on teams has never been more sincere. Phelps is doing a good job. Jim has done a good job of listening." So that's where we are. I don't know who or what to believe. I've shared the quotes. I've tried to be factual. I don't have a strong opinion on this. I guess if anything, I just empathize with the fans. Disagreements like this aren't good for any sport. MLB lockouts back in the day, NBA lockouts, it's never good for really anyone. Certainly not the fans. It's frustrating. Focusing on NASCAR specifically, the playoffs just began. That's what fans want to talk about. That's what I would rather spend my Monday talking about. I'm not belittling the importance of the charter negotiations. They are extremely important. The next 7 or more years are going to be shaped largely by this document. The business is dependent on what gets signed here. My point is that millionaires arguing about leverage, talking about going to court, isn't super interesting for the average race fan. I can't speak for all fans, but I think many come to sports to escape that grind, to escape politics. We come to sports to watch incredible athletes do incredible things. We come to cheer on the best, the endearing underdog story, the historic favorite. That's why people love sports, not because of stuff like this. I'm not in these rooms. You're not in these rooms. NASCAR says this, 2311 says that, one team says this, another team says that. It's hard to say who's truly being the most unreasonable. It's hard to say how far this will go. I've given you the facts, what I believe to be the most telling comments, but it's up to you to form your own opinion. I'm not sure anyone has the truly 100% correct opinion. Look, I want the teams to make more money. The new agreement promises to do that. Maybe not as much as it should. Maybe the teams are being cheated here or there. All I want is for a healthy industry. I want the tracks to get their money. I want the teams, the crews, the drivers to get paid, the media, the sanctioning body. I just want everyone to get a fair deal. The problem is, nobody seems to know exactly what a fair deal looks like. Shoot, Brad Keselowski said as much this past weekend, and he is in many of these meetings. Brad said, quote, "It's hard to use the word fair because I don't know if I know what that means." I agree, and that's why this is a hard topic to cover. I hope 2311 and Front Row get at least most of what they're hoping for. I hope NASCAR is receptive to their concerns. But most importantly, I want to get back to talking about the racing, the competition, the on-track drama. Hopefully that happens soon. Share your thoughts down in the comment section below. That's all I've got. We'll see what happens next. Your guess is as good as mine and pretty much everyone else's. Thanks for watching, folks. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe for more NASCAR content, commentary, discussion, group therapy every single day here on Out of the Groove. Big thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. If you are looking for some actual racing conversation, check out my video from late last night reacting to the playoff opener at Atlanta. Lots of good stuff there. I will talk to you again soon. Have a wonderful rest of your Monday, folks.